Okay. The recording in progress sound is always the sign that we've begun. So thank you all for attending the Silicon Valley Manufacturing Roundtable. I would like to thank our sponsors, eBay, TMC Financing, and the California Employment Training Panel. As I mentioned, I am Michael Erickson, Regional Director of Manufacture San Jose, and your host for this morning's event. Before I continue, I would like to take this time to thank the team at Manufacture San Jose and SF Made for their assistance in organizing this event. In particular, I would like to thank our recent addition to the Manufacturing San Jose team, Phil Lonsdale, our program manager, who's been driving much of the engagement with manufacturers since he joined us in April. For those of you who don't know our organization, Manufacture San Jose has been working with manufacturers here in San Jose for over 3 years now. Our mission is to help the roughly 800 small to mid-sized manufacturers in San Jose grow their business through a variety of free advising and resource delivery services, and through our workforce and youth programs team, bring visibility and interest to the great potential of career pathways in manufacturing that can bring higher wage jobs to those who have faced barriers to employment in the past and those who are just beginning their careers after high school or college. Over the last year and a half, Manufacture San Jose is focused on staying ahead of the wave of new information and change so that we can ensure that manufacturers have been armed with the resources necessary to weather these difficult times. In addition to connecting manufacturers to access to necessary capital like the PPP and EIDL and other local grants, and then later the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and advising them to then ensure that funds drawn from the PPP draws are forgivable. We also helped manufacturers ensure that they're operating with the health and safety of their employees and comply with county and state health ordinances, among many other topics. We also helped connect manufacturers who had adapted their operations in the early stages of the pandemic to manufacture PPE to local municipalities so they can provide much needed resources to the first responders and healthcare providers across the Bay Area. In March of this year, in partnership with the City of San Jose, we were awarded a grant through the EDA to focus on advising companies in areas like East San Jose that have been most impacted by the pandemic. We are grateful for this opportunity to focus in this area, and this work will continue over the next 2 years. We are also grateful for our continued partnership with the City of San Jose to ensure that our local manufacturing sector continues to be the lifeblood of the local economy and a driver of equity for local residents. So just over a year ago, we held a roundtable to hear from local manufacturers on how they adapted during the early months of the pandemic and their plan to remain resilient during these difficult times. For this event, I thought it best to bring those manufacturers back to hear how they've continued to survive and thrive, and then hear their vision for the future of their companies. So today, it's my pleasure to introduce or reintroduce and be joined by Brad Mounts, President of Mounts Inc., Dan Keys, President of Promotech, Wendy Warren, CEO of the Paper Moon Coffee Company, and also Kurt Chambliss, Executive Vice President at TMC Financial. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Panelists, you can go ahead and unmute yourselves. So the first question, I'm actually going to start with Kurt. Actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. Actually, you know what? I will start with you on this because you were not part of the panel a year ago, and you are joining us for the first time this time. So tell us about you and your background. How did you get started in the business? And how long has your company been in business here in the Bay Area?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to a good, lively discussion this morning. TMC Financing is a local small business. We are not a true manufacturer, but I like to think that we manufacture loans. We provide financing for small businesses. We really try to focus a lot of our attention on manufacturers. That's an important industry for our company. And we can get into some of the reasons why manufacturers are really benefiting from the financing that we provide. We provide SBA loans for commercial real estate financing. So small businesses can control their occupancy cost and not have to worry about a landlord raising rents or relocating them. So that's the overview of our company of what we provide. I guess a fun fact about TMC is we're about to celebrate our 40th birthday. So we have been doing this since 1981, and yeah, so pretty long time. We are, again, we're a small business ourselves. We experience a lot of the same pain and success that other small businesses do. And my background, real briefly, is lending. So I've worked for a variety of banks, done commercial real estate pretty much my whole career, and I've been with TMC for a little over 10 years now.
Excellent. Thank you, Kurt, and welcome again.
Thank you.
So for the manufacturers on the panel, starting alphabetically with Brad, and for those, and remembering, of course, that there are those here that may not have been here a year ago, if you would reintroduce yourselves to the audience and tell us about your background and tell us about your companies.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate being back with the panel. And as a refresher, Mounts is a 55-year-old manufacturing company located in the same building in San Jose for 55 years. I'm a second-generation owner, and I now have a daughter who is taking an active interest and wants to be a third-generation owner. And we manufacture precision torque tools used by the world's largest manufacturing companies. I'll get a fun fact out of the way as well. We just won our 8th consecutive Bay Area Best Workplace. And so we're really proud of that. I'm proud of the culture we've created of engagement at our company.
That's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. It's I always say this, and someone stop me if they've heard it for the 10th or 20th time, but I always love going to Mounts because you don't realize, it looks like, I mean, talk about how, the sort of facilities of today look so different than the stereotypical manufacturing space. And you go in there and it looks like it's a studio for America's Test Kitchen at first. And then you realize that there's a manufacturer, and the employees are just fantastic to see when I was able to actually go in and see them.
Well, you're welcome back now that as soon as you can come back, you're welcome back.
Yes, definitely. Dan, tell us about your company and yourself.
Thanks, Michael. Good to see so many people here this morning. So my name's Dan Keys. I own Promotech Specialty Printing. We're one of a few companies in the Bay Area that offer laser engraving, direct digital UV printing, and pad printing on a variety of items. We do a lot for promotional products, a lot of employee store gifts, as well as manufactured goods. So we work with machine shops doing laser marking on parts. We work with a lot of engineering and prototyping companies to do small runs for investor meetings where they want, a full color printed prototype to show off at a meeting. I took a printing class when I was a junior in high school, and basically a bomb went off, and I screen printed an Ozzy Osbourne sticker and decided this is what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I thank my dad every day that he talked me into taking that class, and I just got extremely lucky that I found something to be passionate about early on. Went to school 4 years plus a 1 year internship for graphic arts management, learning both mostly the technical and printing side, but also some business courses. So I like to say I'm a printer who knows just enough to be dangerous and keep a business going. Fun fact, it's still the funnest fact, I suppose, is we're one of the largest custom Lego printing companies in the country, if not the world. We do custom printing on Lego bricks and Lego people for a lot of big resellers. For most people that don't know, there's a huge secondary market for Lego that people want to make custom stuff for different characters and whatnot. So we do a lot of that custom decorating. We have actually done some printing directly for Lego, which is one of the highlights of my life. I'm a huge Lego nerd, so kind of a fun fact for us. And yeah, it's great to be here. Good to see everybody again, and looking forward to it.
Thank you again. It's there's certainly something that I enjoy with every manufacturer visit and beyond, seeing everyone and touring the facilities. But the first thing about your place, Dan, was, I think back then when I first visited, the Saturn V was out in front in the front lobby.
Yeah, now you probably can't even see it now. It's up there.
Right. And then, you see everything else when you tour around. It's amazing. And last but not least, Wendy Warren from Paper Moon. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Wendy Warren from Paper Moon Coffee, and I actually moved to the Bay Area in 1986 to work in technology. I worked at HP and 3Com, Sun Microsystems, and a couple startups. And then we kind of retired from that, and then my brother gave me a call about working in coffee, so I bought the Barefoot Cafe about 10 years ago, and we launched Chromatic. And so now I'm actually off on my own. And one of the fun facts for us, there's a couple. One is that when my license ended and I needed to relaunch, I decided I really wanted to focus on housing for baristas and coffee professionals. So last year I got the 501c3 for coffee housing. So we're trying to get, working on getting corporate sponsors for that. I think it's really important because I think over the last 10 years, I've just seen the baristas get squeezed out of the area. We get them trained up and then they're off to Sacramento or Portland, or almost everywhere is cheaper than San Jose at this point. I mean, there's been a little dip here, but it's going to take back off. I think the new Google complex is going to shoot rents up $700, they're saying. So I think it's something that hopefully one of our partners will fund. We're supplying Netflix. I'm trying to pitch them that it's a great idea. You can name these houses after, your shows or your characters or something like that. The baristas will love it. They'll get a lot of awesome press. And the other fun fact is that one of the founders of Barefoot created the dark coconut mocha. And every time we change, there's always a bunch of people who come in and say, oh no, but what about the dark coconut mocha? And it's like, no, we still have the dark coconut mocha. It's a latte with guitar chocolate and coconut and of course coffee. And if you're a dessert coffee fan, you will absolutely love it. So you have to stop by for one of those.
Cool. And that yeah, I don't know that I would have a dark coconut mocha, but I will say Paper Moon's regular coffee is just as good if anyone is not into anything sweet. So the question, and I'll keep it with you, Wendy. So your company, as you'd mentioned, you sort of grew out of you grew out of Barefoot and then Chromatic and launched the Paper Moon brand prior to the pandemic. So how has that process of launching a brand been affected by the pandemic? Both in terms of, were you forced to close? Has your supply chain been affected, and how has your market evolved from early March of last year?
Okay, yeah, so we launched with the new name on March 1st of last year. Well, remains to be seen if it was good timing or bad timing, I guess. We're having it really tough. I considered closing for those first 3 weeks and decided to stay open. So we actually filled out, worked with everyone to fill out their unemployment forms. And then I thought we should probably stay open. It's just so hard to like stop and start this kind of business, but that's kind of the state we've been in the whole time. So things start to pick up, then they go back down. Um, Things get a little better, and then we can't get supply. We've had trouble from everything. I mean, I'm sure everyone here too has had trouble. We've had trouble getting everything from filters to coffee equipment to take away carriers. We hit a big snag at the beginning of the pandemic. We hit another one when things picked up in June. There's people, I mean, right now I'm waiting for parts to repair the espresso machine. So yeah, we've had all kinds of supply chain issues. I actually have been working with an American manufacturer to bring some American filters in for over a year. And I should get those next month. They just were too busy with everything else because we're kind of, I'm definitely a small guy in the situation. Um, we're still struggling along. I've got both PPP loans. I got the EIDL loan, and I actually put in a roaster because I felt like with the pandemic, we couldn't make it. We needed a roaster to sell more coffee. But we're struggling because we don't have the same audience. I mean, a lot of people came back recently and they're like, oh, I haven't been here for a year. I didn't know you changed the name. So we don't have the same number of people to present to. We're also going to supply the Paper Moon restaurant, which is a famous restaurant in Milan, but they're not going to get going until next year. So we have, I believe they're going to do one in Las Vegas, one in New York. So we have a lot of stuff, but somehow we got to scrape our way through this year. So like I'm working on one more loan. They ran out of money before I got the restaurant revitalization fund, which I think would have got us through. But I am concerned at this point because I feel like we're facing I'm thinking we got to plan on 2 years of this. And I changed my title to CEO a while back because I'm trying to raise money to also expand the company. We want to bring in investors from Mexican farms, from a Panamanian farm, bring in some more expertise in retail. So I just finished off that memorandum. We're just working on the final renderings, and we're looking at trying to figure out how to do outside patios or rooftop patios and what elevators we could get, all kinds of things to try to make it through and figure out how to seat people for the next couple of years while they're concerned about the pandemic.
Right. Brad, what about mounts? So prior to the pandemic, was mounts growing or stable, and then how did that change over the last year and a half?
Sure. Yeah, we have continually grown both in revenue and employee headcount. The actual COVID period when it started back in March over a year ago, we were as uncertain as anybody, but we were quickly rewarded with a lot of support from the critical infrastructure businesses. When we went out, we didn't know if we were critical infrastructure or just like everyone else. And so we had a lot of calls and letters within day 1 and 2 from vendors ensuring we would be open. And so we had closed one day and then brought back all of our kind of what we call boots on the ground team the next day. And we grew over 14%, almost 15% during COVID over the prior year, which is probably double our normal growth rate. It was largely fueled by industries that had changed and shifted to providing PPE. One that was on 60 Minutes where we got a little fame was the GM Kokomo, Indiana plant that Mike Pence toured. We tooled that entire factory up in less time than it took them to give us a purchase order. We actually accepted the order and shipped it before we had the purchase order. So we grew, and we felt very blessed, very lucky, and still do. This year has not been quite as rewarding for a number of reasons. I think we had a lot of business that was maybe we received a lot of business that we would have normally gotten over a longer period of time in a condensed period of time. Today, like Wendy, and I'm sure everybody else who makes things, we are affected by supply chain constraints, lack of microprocessors, lack of raw material. I actually have a material vendor in Taiwan who just sent me a very nice letter explaining that their deliveries were now 330 days from receipt of order.
Wow.
So, I mean, that forces you into a whole new supply chain situation. So we're doing fine. We're still profitable. We've grown our head count 15 employees since the COVID period started in that March. So I feel the future's bright, and I'm excited to talk about that today too.
Yeah. Dan, what about your company? What's funny is I had actually gone back and watched the recording of last year's Roundtable last night. And at the time, you had mentioned the Sunglass Boom of the summer of 2020.
Right.
So I'm curious now if that's still true this summer, and then what's happened within your company in between the two Sunglass Booms.
Sure. Yeah, that was the joke with the customer was everybody spent their first stimulus check on sunglasses. So that they've been a good customer. There is a lifestyle company that does sunglasses and hoodies, and they sponsor NASCAR races, all kinds of stuff. And so they've really grown. Luckily, it wasn't a boom. It was just growth. So it's been sustained. We've been seeing a lot of orders come through for them. And also in the beginning of the pandemic, similar to what Brad was saying, we got extremely lucky. Our biggest customer is an education kit company. And typically we will send kits to tutors, and then students come into the tutors and do their education. Well, now we sold a kit to the tutor, and then every one of their students needed a kit. So we do a lot of our customers are homeschooling, different tutoring companies, as well as entire school districts will buy these reading kits. And so we saw a little spike in the beginning, and similar to Brad, like we shut down for about 3 days. Told our customers they're all local. This particular education kit customer is local, and we said, look, we can fill a van full of product and you can ship out of your garage. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. So we did that. 2 days later, they called and they said, we're out. So we all came back in and finally got a hold of someone at the county and said, hey, we support homeschooling. They're like, done, you can stay open. It was pretty easy, fortunately, for us to open back up. And then, that tapered off, but that business has been steady. I think, we were steady before COVID, growing a little bit. And then we've been able to remain steady through COVID because of the education materials that we do. Sunglasses are still huge. They're, easily in our top 5 revenue generators. And then, the big thing that we found, thankfully, when Promotech started, we were printing chip clips and letter openers and, pens and a lot of the, swag that's given away at conventions. But, to print a pen for 10 cents in San Jose is near impossible with labor costs and rent and things. We priced ourselves, intentionally priced ourselves out of that tchotchke market and more into employee stores and incentive programs. So now we're printing on Yeti tumblers, $60 power banks, coolers, a lot of fitness items, larger things that go into employee stores and go into incentive programs. And then, so when COVID hit, convention business died. If we were still printing tchotchkes, we would have not survived. But fortunately, a lot of those employee incentive and employee store items, they kept going. So some of those, the higher end items that we printed survived. And then instead of sending a pallet of 1,000 water bottles to a corporate headquarters, they called and said, hey, can you do fulfillment and drop shipping and send each bottle to the individual employees' homes? Because now they're all working from home. And of course, we're like, yes, we can do that. And then after about a half hour of researching, how do I do that? I had done quite a bit of fulfillment in my previous life. So I knew it was something that we could pivot to offer pretty quick. And that's what got us through. It was just somebody said, well, hey, can you do this instead? And we would just say yes. And then we would go figure out how to do it just to keep revenue coming in. And so now coming out of this, we're going to be a fulfillment company as well as a manufacturing company, which is fantastic. So
yeah, that's great.
So we've been able to stay steady. We did both rounds of PPP and idle. We kept idle in the bank. We've actually started paying it back, I think, but we're keeping it. I think similar to what Brad had mentioned last year was, we had access to some capital, so we took it, and we're still holding on to that, just because, with Delta spikes and stuff, we don't know what's going to happen. Like Wendy mentioned, we could still be in for a couple of years of uncertainty. We used our second round of PPP to hire a new production manager. So we actually did grow in headcount slightly by one this was just about 6 months ago. And so again, revenue is staying steady. PPP saved us for payroll and saved me, was able to bring in a new production manager to take some load off of my plate so I can focus on some of this fulfillment stuff. So it's been hard and steady and we're just blessed that we survived it. So
yeah, thanks, Dan. And Kurt, so your story is obviously going to be different for different reasons than the manufacturers here on the panel, but talk about what the last year and a half has been like for your company. And what were the kinds of things that you were seeing from the manufacturers that you were engaged with?
Yeah, I think I have a unique perspective because we work with small businesses all day long for years and years, and I can answer the question both what we saw from our small business clients, but then also again we're a small business that we were impacted as well. So one of the things that we were able to do as a company is provide PPP loans. So we provided over 1,000 PPP loans, and there were so many businesses that were so grateful and so impacted by those PPP loans that the pandemic, it really seems like there was a two-way street where some businesses just took off and did phenomenal during this program, and of course there are so many that struggled and are still struggling to figure out how to navigate the landscape. And the PPP loans that we did, or let's just say the SBA provided, I think that was just and the ideal, just fantastic. It hit exactly where it should, and had the success of what was intended. So there's that angle, and then as a company, there was surprisingly a very strong demand for the type of financing we do, the owner-occupied commercial real estate financing. To put in perspective, our goal was kind of a stretch goal this year of doing about 300 loans, and we're going to probably do north of 400. So it's a pretty big increase where we had to ramp up as a company, and the demand was there, and we had to hire in a situation where you're hiring, but you're not really training people in person and getting people up to speed remotely. It's definitely a very challenging time as a small business to be able to meet the demand of the market. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered all of your questions, or I can expand further, but it's definitely it has been, and I think I agree with Wendy and Dan that it's going to continue to be a challenging time for everyone, whether your business is doing well or you're still figuring it out. It's still challenging no matter which path you're on.
Yeah, and just to stick with you, Kurt, so for TMC, what effect did the pandemic and you talked about the working from home and what that's been like to some extent, but what effect did the last year and a half have on your staff morale and your team's ability to continue working through it?
Yeah, well, I think that we're a company, and maybe other companies say this the same, but we're a company that is, our employees are our company. We don't really manufacture a product that can be differentiated. Yes, loans are different, but our employees are our company, and their morale, their success, their engagement is crucial. And having the feedback of what your what your employees embrace or what they're averse to. The whole idea of working remotely and working from home sounds nice at first, but to put that in place and have that be a day-to-day activity where they're not socializing and we're concerned about our corporate culture and maintaining the good corporate culture we have in working in a remote environment was challenging. So the overall, in looking back, having the buy-in from your employees and the good communication to make sure that they're happy is really, I think, the critical part of it that made our transition smooth.
Yeah, and Brad, what's interesting is so when we talked last summer, and I had asked all of the panelists, what lessons were learned during the early stages of the pandemic. You had mentioned something really interesting about having those direct conversations with employees and staying close to their concerns and fears around working in the facility or working from home if they could. How have there been any challenges with your staff morale over the last year since we last saw each other?
No, Michael, everything's been perfect. No.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much.
No, yes, I mean, enormous challenges with this. I mean, I think one of the things is we've identified a new employee class that's come out of COVID, and that's the hybrid worker, the worker that's experienced the attraction to working from home and potentially the productivity of it as well. And so we've had to deal with that and create some hybrid work from home arrangements. But I think the good thing is we have a culture of being very transparent with our employees. We're an ESOP, so we publish our profit. We kind of, I wouldn't say we're so open that we publish everybody's salaries like the NFL or Major League Baseball, but we certainly are transparent about our performance because our performance affects everybody's retirement trust at the end of the year. And so COVID would not be anything different. And, you know, a lot of times throughout COVID, we thought we were doing a remarkable job responding to either the local public health or the CDC. But we quickly found out when we had employee complaint to the public health department that we weren't potentially listening as well as maybe we thought we were. And so we, as a management team, as directed, our HR director, she recommended we start a COVID task force based upon cross-departmental employees. And so we put that out, and we fortunately had a lot of response to that. And you know, in talking to some of the employees who joined the task force, they were really, they were so happy that they could have their voice heard. In fact, I think one of the most frustrating things for them was that they didn't feel heard in the way the company was responding to COVID. It seemed too routine. It didn't seem customized enough for our organization and their needs. So I give a lot of credit to our employees who joined that task force to really help guide our decision-making. And again, it gave them a voice. So it's been super challenging, and it still is. There's no way I can say it's not. We have 100 employees, and there's days that I think some, you know, or have met the end of the COVID line, and then there's other days they come and work weekends to catch up. So we have an amazing team. We're very, very lucky and blessed.
And so you're a bit different from the others too, where you're probably the largest company on the panel. Were you able to have, so with the task force, did that include the team in Foley, or was it solely, you know, San Jose focused?
Yeah, it started out San Jose focused because it has that's where the complaint came from. But then we quickly realized, the panelists help us realize, the members of the committee help us realize, well, let's bring on Alabama, let's bring on the UK, let's bring on Korea, and everybody got a chance to add their 2 cents maybe, or their perspectives.
Yeah. Thanks. So Dan, conversely, your company probably has the smallest staff of anyone in the group. So talk about, and you brought on the production manager, and so talk about how you and your team has adapted during this time, and how you've been able to sort of mitigate some of the challenges that come with you know, working in a facility during you know, what has been sort of a scary and uncertain time.
Yeah, definitely. We're a very small company. So with the big addition of our production manager, we're up to a whole whopping 5 full-time employees, and then we also use a significant amount of temp labor for some of the, when we get a big order that comes in and we need a lot of, you know, part handling and stuff like that. So as far as from a morale standpoint, imagine this is common across most manufacturing companies, is as long as, if I kept the work coming in, you know, that kept morale up. People would come in and they'd walk in the morning and they'd have a pallet full of Yeti coolers to unpack. So they knew, okay, well, we're busy today. And I probably overcommute. They're probably sick of hearing from me. And I would tell them, hey, we just landed 1,000 water bottle order. You know, I would constantly be telling everybody of the orders that we were quoting, the orders that were coming in, what to expect over the next week, which they probably were sick of hearing about it. But so I think just keeping work coming in kept the morale up. Like I said, when in the very beginning, when we had closed for the few days, I think people, obviously, we all were very, very nervous. But then when we reopened 3 days later and everybody came back and we were trying to even catch up, I mean, they got the idea pretty quick, I think, that we were going to at least be okay. I let them know right away when we got PPP that, that their jobs were secure and things like that. So morale, fortunately, we are all, it's very much a family atmosphere. We're all very similar opinions on COVID. Nobody wants it. Everybody is more afraid of getting someone else sick than they were of getting sick themselves. So everybody was comfortable with masks, and luckily, you've seen our manufacturer or our production areas are separated enough that oftentimes everybody's working in a completely different room, if not on the other side of the room. So staying apart wasn't hard, and everybody was sort of on the similar level. Nobody's super paranoid about COVID, but also nobody's like, nobody thought it was a hoax. Everybody got vaccinated as fast as they could. So that helped a lot. So I think, we're all sort of a family with similar ideas and values. So that helped a lot. But they also, that I have told them right off the bat, if you're sick, don't come in. Don't worry about it. We will cover, we will be okay. Even all our customers, if we have to push orders out a couple days, everybody's used to that now. I mean, that everyone is seeing the same thing. So everybody knew that if they didn't feel good, stay home. You're not going to lose your job. We'll cover for you. We'll be okay. Come back in when you feel good. Play it safe. And so I think that made everybody feel pretty comfortable too. And then obviously when we hired Van, the new production manager, I think it really hit home for the rest of us that we're moving forward. We're gonna take advantage. We invested during COVID. We bought 2 new large pieces of equipment. One because rates were low, financing was available. They're only like $20,000 to $30,000 machines, which for some industries is absolutely nothing. For some, it's big, but for it's a medium-sized purchase, I think, as far as manufacturing goes. So the financing was relatively easy, and the suppliers were having great deals. I mean, their sales were down, so they were offering some great incentives to purchase equipment. So I think between orders coming in, purchasing equipment, and hiring, the morale stayed up because people realized we're going to be okay, and we're going to take advantage of opportunities that came along because of COVID and get ready to ramp it up when this settles down.
Yeah, it's funny, again, going back to the roundtable last year, you actually, and I had forgotten about this, but you had mentioned that it was like, discount, and like easy financing sort of central for new machines. And so you were looking at bringing on new machines, and then, it happened. And so it's funny, sort of seeing that progression and things sort of taking place over, the last year. So Wendy, with Paper Moon, you are the only sort of customer facing business on the panel. What's been the biggest challenges for you, and how have you adapted through that with your team?
So that was really stressful. It was stressful for me to decide to stay open. I was worried about everyone. And my husband is older than I am, so he's about to turn 65. So we both have like a pre-existing condition. I'm not a very scared person, so I kind of felt like we'd be okay. But I did think about, God, I'm going to feel like an idiot if my husband dies or if someone else dies. So it's a lot. It was a lot to carry. And then I think at the same time, I felt like Brad did, that we were communicating a lot. Like if people left who had already been here and were on our healthcare, I kept paying their healthcare because I got that first PPP loan. I think I knew it was coming, and then I felt like that was the right thing to do if people were really scared. So we paid that healthcare for people from March all the way until August. Through August, and then we reassigned our healthcare, and we had to tell them either you got to come back, which one did. One came back a little later because they were still afraid to come back. And then I was communicating, we're losing money, but I wound up with a group of people who, well, I didn't actually realize, but they wanted me to put the register to the door like some of the coffee shops were doing, but most of them already had a roaster. So they had a roaster with like shipping out coffee, and they could use that revenue to subsidize the store, whereas we were just losing. At the point they wanted me to move the register to the front, we had lost $33,000 a month before, and I was like, we just can't do it. I need people coming in. I need them looking at the coffee, the bags of coffee. I need them buying the coffee. When it first hit in April, I put in I researched around and I put in things in the, not things, but two products in the HVAC system. So when the air flows through, it destroys bacteria, viruses, and contaminants. So I was trying to explain, look, we have that. We're not going to build up a load in here. We did put a plastic screen in. We put like a block, blocks in the way, so people had to stand way back. I felt like we kept taking people's input on what they wanted to feel safe. But I think there's like 3 of them that got really angry that I didn't put the cash register to the door. And I think they never got over that. And then I've got like a web page called the 86 Paper Moon that's basically said the reason why we're losing money is I'm always out playing golf, which I played 9 holes of golf every week at Prune Ridge. And other than that, I'm pretty much working. And then that the coffee housing is like fake, even though it's got the 501c3. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of misinformation, but I mean, we took seriously the whole part about the communication, so we've really stepped that up. And I'm working on stuff. I have books I'm reading. I'm lucky enough to be working with Manufacturer San Jose, and they got me a couple of executive coaching sessions with Farhana from Surf Life Coaching, which was just really helpful on trying to work harder on communicating and make sure I'm getting across to people. Because I think I am business-like, so I think some people think, I mean, I really do care. That's why I started coffee housing, but I don't think I'm not like maybe what some people are expecting as far as, I don't know, lovey-dovey or whatever. But so anyway, we're fighting that, and we have a lot of new people on staff because this group left that are super invested and super excited, and we're still getting comments on our Instagram page. So I think we're going to meet today and talk about blocking those comments, because we tried to be open. We told them that we would work with the mediator, then they attacked the mediator. They attacked all the pop-ups that were working with us in San Jose. So they harassed current employees and tried to get them to jump on the bandwagon of saying that I was always yelling at people and some stuff like that. So yeah, I'm struggling with that at a bad time, because we really need to get some corporate accounts and get some more things rolling from a revenue standpoint.
We just have a few minutes left. And I did want to get one sort of final compound question together for all of you. So looking ahead, in as difficult as it can be to sort of look ahead, what are you all planning for the remainder of the year and beyond? And then also, if you could, in that, talk about what the most important lesson learned has been during the pandemic. And I'll start with Kurt.
Well, I saw the prep question for lessons learned, and I'm just gonna put it out there to the group that we have seen so many businesses positively impacted by buying their building, and I know that doesn't work for everybody, but really with 10% down and the rates are like 2.8% fixed for 25 years. If you can control your occupancy cost, you have flexibility to navigate many of the challenges that come in the future. You're going to have more working capital. You're going to have more resources available for other things. And being in a position where you can get your occupancy costs fixed, I think can help during these challenging times, but to grow your business in general. So I think that's super important. And then I guess the other answer to the question, because I feel we are on limited time, is it's just back to the communication. I think you have to listen to your employees, and you have to listen to your customers and see what their demands are, and that's always changing. Both those things are dynamic, and you need to. I think Brad's task force idea was an excellent idea. Having the infrastructure in place to make sure that you're listening to both your employees and your customers is I could say my number one recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you. Brad, what about you? What do you see in the future of mounts over the remainder of this year and beyond? And what do you think is the biggest lesson learned?
So first of all, I want to let Kurt know it wasn't my idea. It was the HR director's idea to start the task force. I'm low on the great idea scale, but I think so. We're staying the course, right? We're a little bit behind our plan this year, primarily for the reasons I indicated. But I have this feeling and this thought that if we can withstand COVID, as all of us here have, and some of us are having a harder go than others, and I feel for those companies that are struggling, that we can survive anything. And so our plan, our 10-year plan to grow has been stated to our employees, and we're off and going after it. And we'll make the course corrections we need. I think the hardest thing for me, the most challenging thing, and the lessons learned, certainly it's not only listening, but it's really, Kurt hit the nail on the head. Everything starts with your customer requirements, and then you have to support those requirements by explaining to your team what we have to do to make that happen. And that to me is probably at the heart of it. And then it's really listening to your employees, because I think COVID has, if it's taught me one thing, it's listening to the individual is critical, because everybody's situation can be different for the multiple reasons. Wendy explained some of the reasons that, things, what might be good for me may not be good for someone else, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, what about you? What do you see as the path forward for Promotech, and what's the biggest lesson learned?
Yeah, I think for the remainder of this year, I need to kind of stabilize where we're at. When COVID first hit, I honestly thought we were maybe going to be shut down for a few weeks, and I had sort of mentally allotted that time to expanding our product offerings. So I bought some test setups for getting into dye sublimation, getting into debossing, embossing, and hot stamping, and getting into processing silicone. So I bought some small test stations to work on those. The chaos behind me was supposed to be turned into our development center, where we were going to sort of work through some of these new processes before we roll them out into full production, because they're things that our customers had requested. Yeah. So obviously we didn't shut down. Things, stayed chaotic throughout this whole thing. So I'm hoping now, with the addition of this new production manager taking some of the day-to-day stuff off my plate, is to kind of restabilize Promotech. We've got some machines that need to be fixed. Some machines aren't running. One of the brand new machines I have, we haven't even turned on yet. So basically, you got to just take a break and get everything all the processes and equipment that we have in-house right now operational, and get get Van trained up on all the existing processes, as well as help develop some of the new ones. so that in 2022, we can roll out some of these new offerings that customers have requested, and then also to develop our fulfillment processes, because I think being a one-stop shop where we can pull, we can stock parts, we can pull them off the shelf, do on-demand custom printing, and then fulfill orders all in one place is from my understanding, is a relatively unique service in the Bay Area. So that's something we want to continue to develop, the fulfillment side. And then the number one lesson learned for me was to, this is easy for us to say because we, again, we did okay. Orders kept coming in, but just was to just not panic. We just plotted day by day, talking to you, talking to other people, talking to you, Michael, and talking to, other manufacturers. Like, everybody's in the same boat. We're gonna have the same challenges, but a lot of people are doing okay. So my biggest lesson learned was to not panic, identify those opportunities. If there's available low interest financing, and deals on machines, go for it. We spent all of our PPP on payroll, but we did invest other monies that we had on equipment and things like that. So it was just, identify those opportunities in the bad times. And I'll be honest, we did the same thing in 2008. We took advantage of some available capital financing and some good deals on equipment, and did the same thing. We tried to move forward and grow during that period. So that was my biggest lesson learned, was just don't panic, make smart decisions, and grow if you can.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. And Wendy, last but not least, what do you think or what do you see as your path forward over the rest of this year and beyond? And what is the sort of greatest lesson learned over the last 16, 18 months?
Well, over the last 10 years, I've already learned that retail is kind of scary, right? We work on really thin margins in our business because it's restaurant. And so that's why when the pandemic hit, I was like, we're gonna have to move on. So I put together a roster, and going forward, I just got to focus on selling more bags of coffee. We have an online shop. We sell them on DoorDash, all the delivery services. We sell them at the store. And then we're just going to have to pick up more corporate clients and just work on that as quickly as we can. I feel like we've got the staff here the staff is now really happy. They're really invested. We got good social media going on. I think it was so stressful. I feel like we were mean to the customers. We were trying to just have them wear their masks, but I think we got a little bit too, unfriendly. So now we're focused on that as well, treating the customers well. So we've got to do all that. So we're just got to run for a while longer. Hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah. Thank you. So I want to thank all of the panelists at this time. I know we're a few minutes over, but is there anyone left in the audience that has any questions of the panel? Okay.
How do you listen to 100 people as individuals? Because we have our company's around 25, and I think even that's difficult.
I expect that might be directed to me. Yeah, thank you for asking. I actually meet with every employee annually for an hour, and we have just a one-on-one discussion about anything that they want to talk about in the business, whether it's their career development or whether it's COVID. So I only get to do that once a year, given the time frame, but we also survey our employees. We use an annual engagement survey and frequent pulse surveys to try to understand commentary. But it is that meeting people individually is a taxing proposition with 100 people, for sure.
Thank you for the question. Are there any other questions before we close? And I also want to thank everyone that's stuck around for indulging us in what has been a really great and important conversation.
Thanks for including us, Michael. It was fun.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Michael,
thanks. It's a
I love
fun
talking-
group too,
love
all these
talking shop.
Legos and everything.
Hey, well, we'll have to talk because I don't know if you've looked into promotional channels, but we do. I probably have 6 orders for coffee mugs and Yetis in house right now. So the coffee receptacle business is huge for us. So maybe we should talk and sell each one of those mugs with a little sample of some coffee.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and also Kurt, I have my next door neighbors trying to buy a building.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah, so hopefully, Michael, we're getting people's contact information, or how do we do that?
Well, yes, so you should have Kurt's contact information, but I will share
Okay.
it if you don't.
Oh yeah, I think he's copied on the group emails too.
Okay.
I'm going to be contacting you. I forgot to add that to the next 3-month plan is to call Kurt and find me 15,000 square feet.
Pre-qualifications, no cost pre-qualifications. But really the hard part, but financing is frankly easy. The hard part is finding the building.
Right.
Yeah.
The demand right now, I mean, the demand for loans, but there's the demand for these buildings that are just skyrocketing the prices, but I don't see them. I don't see the prices going down either. So it's just that we have so many people, and if you want to be here long term, you got to jump in. And long term, it's a good thing.
Yeah. So thank you all first for joining us this morning, and also for indulging us by going over. By the time I finally shut up, it'll be 10 minutes over probably. But again, I just want to mention that this event will be shared within the next day or so. So for those of those that had to leave exactly at 11, they'll be able to catch the last 8 to 10 minutes at that time. I want to also thank our sponsors, eBay, TMC Financing, and the California Employment Training Panel. So our next event will be part of a series of events to celebrate Bay Area Manufacturing Week, which is taking place from October 1st to October 8th. That event will be the next Silicon Valley Manufacturing Roundtable, which will take place on Thursday, October 7th. And it will focus on sustainability in manufacturing. So please stay tuned for more information on this and other Manufacturing Week events by checking out our events page at mfgsj.org. I want to thank Kurt Chambliss, Brad Mounts, Wendy Warren, and Dan Keys for being such fantastic panelists. And I honestly probably could have kept this conversation going for another few hours. But thank you all again, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.